Hello, folks. Sean Mize here for our coaching call today. I am really excited about what I'm going to share with you today. And I've titled what we're doing today, How to Achieve Your Goals. But if you've come here because you saw that I made an announcement that I was going to talk about how to achieve your goals, and you've already pulled out a sheet of paper and you've written down 7 numbers because you think I'm going to give you 7 steps, you're in the wrong place. Because if you go into your local bookstore or you go online, you can find many, many books. In fact, if you look at your own bookshelf, you can probably find many, many books with 7 steps to success, 7 steps to achieving your goals, 7 steps to achieving your dreams, 7 steps to achieving your vision. And guess what? I could call you on the spot right now. I could call you on the spot right now, and you could probably tell me what the 5 to 7 steps are to achieve your goals. But then if I ask you if you've achieved your goals in the last year, you'd probably tell me, well, no, I haven't achieved my goals in the last year. And when I say, well, why not? You'll say one of 2 things. You'll either say, well, I didn't do the 7 steps I already know. Or you'll say, I tried to do them, but I got stuck. Okay, so if we went back the year before last, the year before that, and the year before last, it's probably the same thing. It's a pattern that happens over and over and over again. You see, I believe that inside of you is the formula for achieving your goals. You already know how to achieve your goals. I don't need to teach you how to achieve your goals all over again. You already know. You've learned every year for the last 20 years how to achieve your goals. You're still stuck. So it's got to be something different than just the steps. There's got to be something more than just the steps. How many of you would like me to tackle today the something more? Take out your notes. You've got your notes. Most of you, I think, come prepared with pencil and paper. I want you to write at the top of that sheet of paper, I already know what to do to achieve my goals. But something's missing. Now I want you to write the missing link to achieving my goals. I'm going to give you the missing link, the natural missing link. And for those of you that will stay through the faith-based call, I'm going to elevate your faith to a new level today by what I'm going to share. I'm not going to elevate it. I'm going to be a mouthpiece to elevate it. But in the natural, I'm going to give you the missing link. And for those of you that follow me from a spiritual perspective, I believe that in addition to the missing link, we really have to go back to purpose. But we're going to talk a little bit about that today. You see, I don't care what your 5-step method is for achieving goals. They all work. They look something like, write down your goal. I want to lose 20 pounds, right? I mean, that's the first step to achieving your goals, is write down your goal. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to start a website. I remember in 2005, December of 2000, might have even been November of 2005. I said to myself, I want to write a book. And so I said, okay, I will write a book. If I remember correctly, it took me 1 month to write my first book. That was my goal. I said, I'm going to write a book. And so every day when I got up, I wrote in the book. And about a month later, it was done. The book was written. So then I said, I'm going to start a website to sell the book from. Now, back then, we didn't have all the technology to make websites. I mean, today, in 1 minute, you can have a website up, and then you just start populating with content. I mean, literally, and you just pay your money, and then, as long as it takes for them to install it, I think it usually takes 5 or 10 minutes from one of the company that I use. 5 or 10 minutes, the website's ready to go. All you got to do is log in and start putting your name on it. But when I got started, it wasn't like that. I remember my first website was written in, believe it or not, HTML. That's why I still have a copy of Dreamweaver on my computer. Still works. Now, once that copy still works, will I probably continue to use HTML? Maybe not, but hey, it works and I know how to do it, right? But at the time, in January of 2006, I didn't have a clue. And somebody came to me. My dad came to me. I'll be vulnerable here. My dad came to me. My dad had gone back to school for the second time. He'd retired from his lifelong work, and he'd gone back to school. And he told us some funny stories. Because he went to school, and he was 60 or 58, 60, something like that. And he was, not only was he the oldest in class, but almost everybody in class was like 21 years old or less. He would go to study group with these kids. It was hilarious, the stories he would tell. But one of the things that he'd learned was HTML. He'd studied some kind of IT or something, and he'd taken an HTML class. And he said, Sean, I'll build your website for you. How could I turn that down? I made the decision I was going to have a website. And so then the next thing that happened was he said, well, what do you want it to say? And I said, well, I don't know. And so I went online and I typed in the words, how to write a sales letter. And I started looking at all this instruction for how to write a sales letter. And I thought, well, if I try to learn how to write a sales letter, you're not going to have a sales letter in 30 days. Because I thought it was a much bigger deal than it is today. The truth of the matter is, I doubt there was all the simplistic sales letter writing that there is today. I remember some of the stuff I studied. It was just pretty deep. And it was all accurate. But at that time, I don't know that anybody had done what I've done, Jason Fladley did, some of the other giants in this industry have done over the last 10 years by just taking some of our best sales letters, genericizing them and saying, look, this is the pattern. We didn't have that back then, and if we did, I don't know where it was. Copywriting courses to learn how to copyright back then were $2,000 to $10,000, to be honest with you. I didn't have the money. Now you can learn copywriting for $100 and learn what you used to pay $10,000 to learn. It's why you don't see that many of the high-level copywriting courses at the high prices unless you really, really go to a very, very high level. You don't need that. You can do $1 million or less in a year online, and you don't need all that stuff. So you just don't see all that. But all of this has to do with my decision, folks. I made a decision in November or December I was going to write a book. I had no idea how it was going to pay the bills. I should have gone and gotten a job. On all natural rights, I should have gone and gotten a job. But I just felt impressed. I write a book. And so I said, I'll write a book. And I sat down, and I don't even remember the days. It's like a blur when I go back. But somehow in a month I wrote the book. I must have sat down every day and written. It didn't write itself, I can tell you that. And then the next month I had to do a website, and of course Dad did it, and then he wanted to know what words to put on it. And so I cheated. Did what a lot of my clients do. And remember good old Yannick Silver. So Yannick Silver back then had one of those packages, $100 or something, with about 12 different sales letters that he's written before, and he'd done the same thing I do with some of mine. Now, I genericized it, and when he talked about his product, he just put blank in there. So I bought his package, and I scrolled through, and there was like only one sales letter that would even come near trying to sell what I had. And I went in there, and I followed his directions, and I filled in all the blanks, fill in the blanks, and I filled it all in, and then I ponied it up just a little bit so it would feel a little bit like me, and I put that on my first website. I made a decision. And sure enough, I priced the book at $16.95, and if I remember correctly, I was mid-sleep, 3 or 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Somebody bought the first copy of my book. I was excited. I was really excited because I thought this was going to change my life, and it did, but not in the way I thought. Because I had these visions of tens of thousands of people buying this book, because I'm telling you, that book was good. The best book I've ever written. It's the best book on earth on the topic. Because you know what? I was writing it from the perspective of experience. Most people that write books, they're writing it from theory. right? And they go out, they do all this research. Sure, they have some life experience, but this book was pure experience because I'd just been through some things in my life that gave me some intense insight into the topic of my book, and I just wrote it from that perspective. And I'm being a little facetious when I say it's the best book on the topic and all that because, come on, your first book's your worst book. That's why it hurts me when I have clients sometimes come to me and tell me that they can't write their first book because they're not ready to make it perfect yet. You know what I think inside? Well, you'll never have a perfect book then because your first book's your worst book. You just gotta write your first book so that you can write your second book. So that you can write. Same thing with videos. I have clients come to me and say, I just don't want to do my first video yet. My makeup's not right. My hair's not right. My software's not right. 3 years later, I have clients sometimes that come to my coaching call for 3 years before they finally take my advice and make their first video. And it's a rough one. It's a doozy. You know how hard it is to tell a client that they've spent 3 years trying to make their first video and they do their first video and it's a doozy? You know how hard it is to write that email that says, friend, I'm sorry to burst your 3-year bubble. Your video was a doozy. You know how hard it is? You know why? That's why I never write that email. You know what I write? I've probably done it to you. I write, congratulations for doing your first video. That's really, really, really exciting. How did that feel? You know what they all tell me? They tell me, Sean, I wish I'd have listened to your advice 3 years earlier and just done it. They tell me it was easier than they ever thought that it was. They tell me it took less time than they ever thought that it was. And so you know what I ask them? I ask them, could you do 5 more this week? You know what most people do? Nothing. I don't understand that. That's not my nature. That's one of the problems I have with teaching this entrepreneurial stuff is my nature is to do. I am a doer by nature. I'm a thinker and a doer. And nothing in between. I make lots of mistakes because I don't think through anything. I think and I get great ideas and I go do them. I destroy some things in the process. I really do. I bust up relationships. I say things I don't filter. I make things thought through. I don't count the cost. Why count the cost? Now, some of you that are more conservative, you're more level-headed than I am, you're more mature, more experienced. You say, Sean, you really should focus on all those details. What, focus on all the details and don't do anything? See what happens here? I'm a doer. I just do. I was talking with a client yesterday, and if you're here, please accept the fact that I'm not going to share who you are, but please just accept the fact that somebody's life is going to change today as a result of me sharing what we talked about yesterday. Okay? Because I know I didn't get your permission, but I'm not using your name, and it's all good. I was with a client yesterday, been working with him, and one of the things that we did was we created, or he did, I gave him direction, he created a new giveaway for his website. He's really excited about it because he says it's really getting him, lots of these new subscribers are coming in and breathing new life, but he wants to get more subscribers. So I said, okay, well, where are you getting these subscribers from? And he says, well, Google's sending them to me. My website's featured in SEO. And it's showing up for the search rankings for different things. And I got 15 subscribers last month from this new giveaway. Now I've got this vision in my mind that my client has 1,000 articles on his website and that he hasn't been doing very much, and he's probably ranking number 40 in Google. And so I'm going to have to help him with all the SEO stuff to get him from 15 subscribers to 1,000, right? That's what I'm thinking. So I very trepidatiously asked the question. I said, my friend, I didn't say my friend, I used his name, but I'm using anonymousness here because I care. Really, because I don't want to get an angry email today. Sure, here, feel free to speak up later. We'll laugh about it. My friend tells me that he has one article on his website. If I wasn't sitting down, I might have fallen down. So here was my question. I said, friend, except I used his name. I said, friend, what do you think would happen if every day for the next 60 days you were to write one more article, not all in one sitting and put it all on your website, but just one a day? You wrote one article a day and you put it on your website, and then you put it on Facebook and you put it on LinkedIn, and you sent it out to your list, and I think I may not have said this, but I should have, and you sent it out to all your contacts, and you said, I've written a new article, and you had a little Facebook like button at the bottom, and you had a share on Twitter button on the bottom, and you did this every day for 60 days, what do you think would happen to your subscribers? My client was speechless. Now, I don't know what he was thinking. You can only guess. But eventually I asked him what I think he should do for the next 2 months. What do you think he said? Most people, you included, are not achieving your goals because you're thinking too much, you're detailing too much, you just aren't doing it. Let me ask you this. What is it that you desperately want to accomplish this month? Write it on your sheet of paper. I hope you haven't been taking notes. I told you what to write on the top of the page. I hope you've been listening to the story I just told. Why? Because stories connect. Because if you've been listening, something inside of you right now is rising up, and it's saying, I am going to start doing my goals. Eight years ago, I can't believe it's been 8 years now, but it has. Actually, it's probably 8 years at the end of this year, I'm thinking in terms of ages. So maybe it's 7 years and a few months. 8 years ago, I was sitting on the stairs in the foyer of our condominium. I was sitting on the stairs, and I bent down to tie my shoes, and my belly was in the way. Now, I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. I don't know if I ate one more potato that day. I don't know if I had one more Snickers bar that day. I don't know why, but when I reached down, I couldn't reach. And the reason I couldn't reach was not because my back wouldn't move. It wasn't because my leg grew. It was because my belly was too big. Now, I'd known for a whole decade that I'd been gaining weight, right? I'd known for a whole decade that if I go work out, it's like, right? Sometimes you go to take a breath and it's like, can't really take that full breath. And I don't know if I made the decision right there, but right in those few days, I made the decision that I was going to lose the weight and keep it off forever. Now, friend, you got to understand that for the last 50, I've always fought my weight. Now, I mean, I've never been obese. Well, I think of obese as being like 800 pounds, right? So, but the legal definition for obese, I think, is like you're 40 pounds over. I was 60 pounds over, so I guess I was obese. Well, that's a rough. Oh, it's the first time I've ever said that. Whew, that hurts. Folks, ever since I was 20, that's what they call yo-yo dieting. I'd lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And then I would gain 30 pounds in 30 days. So many times I could write a book about it. But what was different this time? Because I haven't put the weight back on. Now, I've put it back. I'll add 10, and then I'm like, okay, we got to take it off. If I go on vacation, I gain 10 pounds a week. Then I come back, and, it melts off. And we're talking about the whole shebang. What difference happened? It wasn't some step-by-step thing. No. It was the decision, because I didn't use any special diet. I did some very specific things. that I'm not going to share on this call because some doctor or legal person might tell me I'm not supposed to. This is my own private. But you know what? Some of the biggest things I did was just stop putting so much on my plate. One of the things I don't do anymore, except in a social occasion, is have any food to eat after dinner. So if I finish dinner at 6, there's no more food in me until breakfast, which is like 8. So most days I have 12 to 14 hours of nighttime fasting, which they say is pretty good for you. But I did some other things. I did whatever it took. I didn't use a 7-step goal process, folks. When I built this business, I didn't use a 7-step goal process, folks. And I told you the story about how I started the first part of my business just now. This is before I even started this business. When I started this business, it was very similar. I didn't have a 7-step plan. No, I just started writing articles. I was writing 10, 15, 20 articles a day. For 3 months, I had no idea if it would pay the bills. After about 30, 45 days, I started contemplating going and getting a job. And every single day I would look at things and I'd go, well, I can make it one more day. I'm going to write 15 more articles. And finally it tipped. There was a tipping point. I got so sick to my stomach after writing 20 articles in a day. I mean, take me, that last couple articles of the day, I would almost get sick to my stomach. I could hardly sit up. I was so sick of writing. I did. Why? Because I was determined. Just like I was determined when I reached over from that stair and tried to tie my shoelace and couldn't do it. Without readjusting my belly and then you kind of turning my foot the other way. All right, folks, if you haven't figured it out, here's the big reveal. If you're going to achieve your goals, if you've got to achieve your goals, something inside of you has to rise up and say, I am absolutely determined to achieve this goal. I don't care if nobody's done it before. I don't care if there's no book out there to teach me how. I don't care if my wife thinks I'm a fool. I don't care if my husband thinks I'm a fool. I don't care if my friends reject me. I don't care if I don't sleep at night. I don't care if I gain 100 pounds. I don't care if I lose 100 pounds. I don't care. I am doing it. The truth of the matter is almost everything worth doing in your life requires sacrifice. Think about was college easy? Would you do it again now? If you served in the military, was it easy? Did you almost quit? Probably. Was getting married easy? Yeah, marriage. The day of the marriage is nice and easy. The next year is rough. My wife tells people the first year of our marriage was the worst. Not so sure I agree with her, but that's what she says. She believes that. I assume she's not listening in today. A lot of times she is, but she's not. She's over at Pilates. Tells people it was the worst year of our life together. Because we fought like cats and dogs. Because, you know, some of you are meek, mild-mannered people, and you're married to meek, mild-mannered people, and so you never argue, right? Or you're a big old type A personality, and you just steamroll over your spouse, and it really makes them feel sick. And then some of you are meek, mild-mannered people, and your husband or wife is a type A steamroller, and it makes you feel really bad. Well, my wife and I, we're both steamrollers. We're both type A steamrollers. She's always right, and I'm always right. Even when we're both wrong, we're both right. She's always right, and I'm always right. In order for us to come to agreement on something, we have to agree that she's right and I'm right. I'm being a little bit facetious. We're both very strong-minded people. She's a very independent-minded person. She can do her own things. She can make her own decisions. She can spend her own money. Well, me too. We don't need any help along those lines. Except being married, we have to. We made a decision. Raising kids is not easy, is it? Starting your own business is not easy. There's one fallacy in this industry, folks. There's one fallacy in this industry that hurts probably more than anything else. And it's all those sales pages out there that tell you how easy it is by some long-haired hippie person that's floating around, some third world country, living on a few $100 a month and saying they work from home. Oh, it's easy, all right. There's good days and there's bad days. I can tell you this, the last years of my life have been some of the most rewarding years of my life. I've been able to help more clients and been able to help more people than ever before in my life. God has opened amazing windows in my life, but can I tell you this? Running this business has not been easy. It hasn't been easy. It's not easy trying to guess what people want you to teach when they won't tell you what they want you to teach. And then you create a training on what they want you to teach, and then they say, well, I don't want to spend that much money on it. It'd be like calling the plumber and telling the plumber, I really need you to clean out my toilet. The plumber comes over to clean out your toilet, and he says, that'll be $89. And you say, well, I don't want to pay $89. It's only worth $20. This business is not easy, folks. And if you think it's easy, that's one of the things you're struggling with, because it's hard. Anything you do in life that's worthwhile is probably hard. And folks, if you're going to achieve your goals, something has to rise up inside of you and say, I'm going to do it no matter what. I'm going to do it no matter what. I'm going to pick Sean's brain until I figure it out. I'm going to pick Yannick's brain until I figure it out. I'm going to pick Dan's brain until I figure it out. I'm going to pick Lisa's brain until I figure it out. I'm going to pick Amy's brain until I figure it out. You're going to make a decision, folks. Some of you struggle with Facebook. Some of you struggle with email. When you die, do you want your gravestone to say, I responded to every Facebook message within 3 minutes and spent 3 hours of every day of my life since 2018 on Facebook? Do you want that to be on your tombstone? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, maybe you want to go Guinness Book of World Records here and say, for your gravestone, when you die in a few years or a few decades, you may want your gravestone to say, I spent more time on Facebook than anybody in my life. Maybe that's what you want gravestone to say. And if you do, go for it. But if you want your gravestone to say, I changed 1,000 lives and I made a living doing it, you're probably going to have to get rid of the time you spend on Facebook. You're probably going to have to get rid of the time you spend on social media. You're probably going to have to get rid of the time you spend surfing. You're probably going to have to get rid of the time you spend on email, except for essential, critical communication. And if you say you can't, you're right. You can't. I heard an interesting story. What's today? Tuesday. I heard an interesting story Sunday night. Story goes something like this. A decently well-to-do person, from what I understand, went on a little vacation and saw $1 million mansion up on a hill. And he looked at the mansion, and he looked at God, and he said to God, I cannot imagine living in that house because it's so expensive and opulent and all that. You know what God told him? But folks, by the way, this is a story, and I heard it probably 18th hand, okay? You know what God told him in this story? Don't worry, son. You don't need to imagine living in that house because you never will. He was offended. He said, God, what do you mean I'll never live in that house? And in the story, God says something like, well, if you can't imagine yourself living there, you'll never do what it takes to get to live there. Folks, something has to rise up inside of you that says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this thing happen. You see, many of you have jobs. You work 40 hours a week, or you work 50 hours a week, or you're retired and you had a job for 40 years. And you know what's nice about a job? All the way up until you're the vice president or the president, really until you're the president of the company, somebody else tells you what to do. If you're the mail boy, somebody tells you what to do. And if you graduate to the mopper, somebody tells you what to do. And if you graduate to filing some papers, somebody tells you what to do. And if you graduate to having your own cubicle, somebody tells you what to do. Even if you're a school teacher, somebody tells you what to do. If you're a principal, somebody tells you what to do. If you're a district manager, somebody tells you what to do. If you've had a job for 40 years, somebody's told you what to do for 40 years. Even if you're the president of the company, unless it's your own company, you probably get told what to do, because you go to the board meetings and you talk to the board members, and they tell you what the stockholders want. And now you may have some flexibility on what products you're going to tell everybody else to create, but you're still going to be told what income you're going to have to hit, and you're told this and you're told that. If you've had a job for the last 20 years or 40 years, and then before that you went to elementary school and you went to middle school and you went to high school and you went to college, somebody told you what to do all the time. They told you to come to school at 8 o'clock, and they told you to go home at 3 o'clock, and they told you to do 3 hours of homework, and you did it. You've been told what to do for 40 to 60 years of your life. As an entrepreneur, all of a sudden, you are in charge. I mean, that's like taking somebody that was raised in a city. Some of you were raised in a city. You don't know what cow poop looks like. You take some of you, and I meet people from time to time that were raised in a city, and you take them out to the country, and they're just totally, they see a cow peeing, and they're like, really, you should have gone to the porta potty to do that. They're horrified to see something like that. But if you were raised in the country, you were raised watching cows pee and poop and do all the things that cows do, so they make babies and push babies out. Some of you are just disgusted right now because you're city people. But if you grew up in the country, you're laughing right now. But for those of you country people that are laughing, do you remember the first time you went to New York City? And you got lost, and you got almost run over by a taxi cab, and then as you're trying to jump out of the way, getting run over by a taxi cab, some hippie, stinky person almost ran you over on their skateboard. And, I mean, you remember the first time you went from the country? Remember the first time you went to the city? You were totally out of sorts. Totally. My wife was raised on windy roads. She can drive on any windy road. You can give her switchbacks all day long, and she can take them at 45 miles an hour. If you put her into a grid in a city, she's lost in 2 minutes. We laugh at each other. I laugh at her because she can't. I give her an address, and she's like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. Well, I grew up in a grid. Everything. If you take me out to a windy road, I'm going to superimpose a grid on it mentally, and that's how I get around. We think differently. And I say this because in order to be an entrepreneur, you've got to think differently. But odds are, 99 to 1, your thought process says somebody else makes all your decisions. You don't have to take responsibility for making wrong decisions. I mean, even if you make the decision, well, I'm going to quit this job and get another one, well, at least you still have a job. You might get your new job and go, well, the grass really was greener, but it's not anymore. You still got a job. Entrepreneurs don't have a job. Entrepreneurs don't get a paycheck. Entrepreneurs don't get a paycheck unless somebody buys. You just see, for all your years, you've had a paycheck. But if you did a good job or not, you might even have gotten a reprimand this week. Your boss might have called you in and say, look, if you come in late one more time, we're firing you. You're still going to get paid. But if I don't show up for my coaching calls, I don't get paid. If I don't produce training, I don't get paid. If I don't write sales copy, I don't get paid. And that's how it is as an entrepreneur. And for some of you, that's a mental exercise. But you haven't been able to shift mentally to being fully responsible for whatever you do online. And so what that means is you sleep till you're ready to get up. You get up, your wife interrupts you. 9 o'clock, it's time to work. You don't feel like working, so you spend an hour in email. You spend another hour in Facebook. Then it's time for lunch. Then it's time for a siesta. And you don't get anything done. You can say, well, I don't know what to do. Learn what to do. The truth of the matter is most of you know what to do. It's just more alluring to not do it. I have a client who has spent probably the last 3 years of her life trying to write a book. I had a half-hour conversation with her a few weeks ago and laid down the gauntlet. We're not doing anything else till you finish the book. And I don't remember if it was 2.5 years or 3 years. Would you believe this? It's like 3 weeks later. Not only has she finished the book, by all rights should have taken another 3 years, but she got a little irritated at me that I didn't realize that we were going to do more than do a book. I figured it'd take 3 years to write the book, right? I'm being a little facetious here. Every one of you has a 3-year seed inside of you that could be finished in the next 3 weeks. Every one of you. You're hearing the sound of my voice and aren't mad and running with your tail between your legs, tears coming out of your eyes, and slamming the phone down on me right now. I'm going to be direct with you. Every one of you can do something in the next 3 weeks that you've tried 3 years to do and couldn't. Every one of you could record 100 videos if you wanted to in the next 3 weeks. Every one of you could write a book in the next 3 weeks. Every one of you could have new coaching clients in 3 weeks. Every one of you could have a $2,000 coaching package in the next 3 weeks. Every one of you, probably can't do them all, but if you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, you can do in 3 weeks what you've been trying to do in 3 years. All you've got to do is set your mind to it and determine that you're absolutely going to do it no matter what. That right there is what is holding you back from your dreams and goals and achievements. Is not making the absolute decision that no matter what, you are going to do it. That's it. That is the key and the secret to achieving your goals, is making the absolute decision that no matter what, you're going to do it. Can I say that one more time? The key to achieving your goals is making the decision that no matter what, you are going to do it, period. And I encourage you, go out and do it and make it happen.